listening to Inside the Rings, your ultimate podcast destination for everything related to the Olympic movement. Here's your host, my dad, John Hawkins.
Well, welcome back to Inside the Rings, where we go behind the scenes of the Olympic movement, exploring the people, the passion, and the purpose of the Olympic Games. I'm your host, John Hawkins, and today we're joined by one of the most decorated Winter Olympians in American history, a powerhouse on the ice and a pioneer for women in sport, Bonnie Blair. Five-time gold medalist and a name forever etched in speed skating greatness. Bonnie, so good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to chat with you today.
I'm really excited too. So Bonnie, you grew up in a big family in Illinois. How did skating first come into your life?
Well, it actually came into my family's life before it touched my life. I was kind of the last of six kids by like a long ways.
Okay.
But my sisters one year got figure skates for Christmas. And they kept wanting to go to the rink and going faster and faster. And then they'd get in trouble by the rink guard. But one of those like public sessions, there was a speed skating coach there.
Oh,
and
cool.
He's like, oh, you guys should come join speed skating. So they went home, they told my mom that, and my mom kind of thought they were nuts. And then total coincidence, they run into this guy a couple of weeks later in the grocery store. And he's like, yeah, I really think they should come try speed skating. So literally that's how our family kind of got in it. And what if that chance meeting at the grocery store would have never happened?
Right.
We wouldn't be having this chat today. That's for sure. So,
well, I'm glad it did then.
All those years later, then, I come along and then the weird story that, is kind of like one of those things like, really, did that just happen? And how did this all come to be? But so my mom, after having 5 kids, now you also have to remember back then, the husbands weren't allowed in the delivery room.
Oh,
so
right, okay.
He dropped my mom at the hospital and took the rest of the kids to the ice rink. And then it was announced over the PA system that the Blair family had a new girl to add to the family. So That's how my brothers and sisters and my dad, knew that I was a girl or a boy. And literally that's how the family knew that I had been born over a loudspeaker in an ice rink. So,
at the ice rink.
You just can't make this stuff up, right? Like
that is a Hollywood script right
happen?
there.
So
yeah.
Anyway, and then the family had been involved in the sport. They basically had me in skates before, like my feet really fit in them. They had to leave my shoes on and then put my feet in skates. I hear all these stories. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't remember any of that, but
Sure.
But yeah, it was a family thing. My dad was always a timer on the finish line. My mom a lot of time did judging, and judging in our sport was more of, before now where we have all this technology, we would wear numbers on our back. And as the skaters went across the finish line, it was like who was first, second, or third. And like my mom would be in charge of the people that went across third, and she'd write their number down. So that's what they kind of called judges back in the day.
Okay.
Or working in the concession stand or whatever it was. It was a family thing that we did all together. Although I was kind of so late that the family had kind of already been done by the time I got there, but it still was a family thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it competitive at home?
Yeah, yes, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, sure.
But like I would just say, like my sister Mary, if we were going to play cards at night, we were going to play until she won. So at some point, you just like let her win so you can go to bed. And so like I said, friendly competition, but I think, for sure too, like back in the day when my sister Mary was like 20 years older than I was, my sister Susie like 18. And so I'm 61 now. So back then there weren't a lot of sports for females to be involved in.
Right.
And so for them just to find that competitive window for them, an outlet for them to do something was, kind of fuel for their fire or whatever. And so, I think, that was and speed skating had that avenue that they could compete because, there probably weren't a lot of options in, high school or college at that point in time. So this gave them that avenue to compete. And, then there were like definitely friendly rivalries or, my sister Mary, if she's playing golf with a guy, she's teeing off on the white tees because if she's going to win, she wants to say she played the same tees as them. Me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go as forward as I can and let's use handicaps.
Oh, I love it. I grew up in a family of 5 boys and a girl, and there were some games that were banned in our home because of the competition, the fierce rivalries, right?
Right.
So,
but I bet your sister's super tough growing up with 5 boys.
Yeah. And so that's amazing. Do you remember the first time you put on skates?
No, I remember one of these things I just talked to my sister about the other day was I remember I grew up in Champaign, Illinois. I remember going to a meet in the Madison area and I was little, 6, 5, I don't know. And we got there and I forgot my skates.
Oh.
And so then I had to borrow a boy's skate that was in the race before me. So he would race, they would quick take his skates off, put his skates on me, and then I remember that. I don't think I ever forgot my skates ever again. Now, I'm going to say, should my parents have really remembered to pack my skates being so young, but then again, I never left them at home anymore. So that was a learning lesson.
Yeah.
The other thing I remember is, I said that we wore numbers on our back for, when we went across the finish line. And I remember that. So each state had different things. And if we just competed amongst other clubs in Illinois, I had an Illinois number. But if we did something where we were like a lot of different states together, then everybody would get a new number for that competition. It was paper, you put it on your back and you left. But ours for Illinois it was kind of like more of a permanent number. And my number was 5. Okay. And I remember thinking it was super cool that 5 was on my back and I was 5 years old. So kind of a long way about it. But I remember, do I remember skating? Do I remember learning how, I don't remember any, I just remember always loving to go to the rink. That, the thrill of going to a competition, just it putting a smile on my face.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the number you wore when you first won?
Well, no, because then, having the 5 on my back, then that's kind of, so I'm guessing you remember Apollo and Toronto.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that was when we skated more races like that. We called those pack style races.
Yeah.
So now a lot of those athletes, their helmets, they'll have helmet covers with numbers on their helmets. Back when I did short track worlds, we would wear a vest, kind of like skiers, and we would have numbers on those. But then for long track, we wouldn't do that because there'd really only be 2 people on the ice at once. The clock would stop when your skate went through. But now, for the athletes, they wear kind of like a ankle monitor or like a chip so that when it does break through that beam, that that ankle monitor, maybe that sounds bad.
It's okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Or something. But the transponder, that's what they call them. That transponder goes especially with that person. So we really don't do numbers anymore. And, I don't remember what I was at Short Track Worlds when I wore a vest or, the vest, and I won that overall championship. But but 5 was just my lucky number. And then I win 5 gold medals. Like, there's just a lot of like weird nuances, right? Like, do.
I love it though. I love it. So you were 19 at your first Olympics in Sarajevo. What was that experience like?
Yeah, like I get goosebumps thinking about it. I felt like I was a kid in a candy store. I think my first real memory of watching the Olympics was Eric Heiden from 1980. So like really 4 years before that. And, I'm sure I probably watched the 76 games, but I would have been 12. So, I don't remember that. But I do remember watching Eric and, so thinking, oh God, it would be super cool to go to the Olympics. Yeah. And in those Olympic trials in 1980, I placed, after only doing that Olympic style type racing versus like the pack races like Apollo did, I was 8th at those Olympic trials. So they took 5 for the 500 and I was 8th. So I'm like, oh my God, I was pretty close, having really never done it before except the weekend before the Olympic trials. So now the Olympics is drawing a little bit more of attention for me. And then, watching Eric and thinking, gosh, could I go there? Could I do that? And then going to Sarajevo and I had my mom and 2 of my sisters went, and I remember walking in through opening ceremonies and finding them in the crowd. Now you have to kind of remember that Sarajevo was more of like a communistic type country. So everything was browns and grays and blacks, like their clothes or whatever. Yeah. And so if you were an American or a Canadian, you kind of stood out like a sore thumb because you had a colorful jacket on. So I literally found my mom and 2 sisters in a whole stadium full of people. And, but it was like, and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, like people are at home watching this. I was at home watching in Lake Placid, and I was like, oh my, I'm here. This is crazy. And I only competed in one event at that Olympic Games, the 500. And if we had a video of it, you probably would have thought I won. I came across the finish line and I'm pretty sure I threw my arms up in the air. I wound up getting 8th there. And I thought if I could be anywhere near top 12, that would be good. So 8th to me was, I won. That was the coolest thing ever. So it was, being in the cafeteria where all these other athletes are. And I remember one day, hopefully some of your listeners are old enough to remember, but I remember one day in the cafeteria area, and I got to eat lunch with Phil and Steve Mayer and Scott Hamilton. Wow. And 2 skiers, they were brothers, they were twins, and Scott Hamilton. And I felt like I died and gone to heaven. And I didn't want the lunch to end. These are guys that I had kind of watched, and now I'm here having lunch with them. This is just the coolest thing ever. So, that taste of that first Olympic Games was enough to get me all in, full force. And now I'm looking towards the next Olympics and what could that be like?
Oh, that's amazing. When did you realize you're not only competing, but you can win at that level on the global stage?
Yeah, I think 1986, I started to get on the podium
Mm-hmm.
And so, and still really in, 1984 being eighth. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in the top 10. Like, I mean, I don't know what time won versus what I got, the difference there, but, like that was pretty good. So, like I said, I was kind of full force in. I didn't live where my coach was. So
Okay.
a lot of me getting my training programs was literally on a piece of paper, like
Wow.
for the whole month. And then to try to decipher what it even all meant. Like I had never even really trained before. So that was a whole learning curve. But, now I became more a student of the sport. I was more dedicated to what I was going to do. I wasn't, missing workouts, like when I was younger, I'm like, oh, I'm with high school. My friends want to go to a movie. Oh, okay. I'll go
Yeah.
with them. Maybe I'll do a workout later or try to do something different on the next one. Or, so that taste of a little bit of success geared me for working harder to get more success.
Yeah.
And so in 1986, I started getting on the podium. And that was with back then, the East Germans.
Yeah.
And so, and to me, they were the ones that I always looked up to. So once I got at the World Championships, I got a third. And then in
Wow.
the next 500, I tied one of them.
Wow.
And I had coaches from other countries coming up and congratulating me,
Wow.
because they were kind of so dominant, nobody had broken into them.
They were
And-
machines, right? I mean, they were, yeah.
So then the next weekend, I beat both of them. And so it was kind of at that point that for me, the clock at the end of the straightaway really became more of my competitor.
Yeah.
I realized I had to quit just looking up to those East Germans. I needed to look past them.
Yeah.
I needed to quit just, like they're it. Now I kind of am.
Yeah.
But you can't I can't just rely on that. So I always needed to be looking for more. And to me, it was the clock at the end of the straightaway. So, started looking at when I went to different competition sites, what time did I skate at this rink before? And I really started working more with the clock in my mind.
Yeah.
And because if I can't beat the clock at the end of the straightaway, I'm not beating anybody else. But
Right.
at the end of the day, now I need to beat me. And
Yeah.
that's kind of really what it was all about. So, and, once again, not unhealthy, taking things into perspective. Back then we raced outside the majority of the time
Oh, yeah.
until like 87, we started skating. There were a couple of tracks that were inside. So, like you've got to take weather,
Yeah.
wind, snow, whatever into account. And also always kind of could relate myself to the boys on our team.
Mm-hmm.
So like if Dan Jansen skated a 500, we typically were almost exactly 3 seconds different.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Okay.
no matter what. So if he raced first, I kind of had an idea where I was going to be, and then vice versa.
Okay.
So yeah, but 86 was kind of that turning point where now I can get on the podium. And as we got closer to 88, I was there more consistently. I started even getting on the podium in the 1,000, which then in 88, I ultimately win a gold in the 500 in world record time and a bronze in the 1,000,
Yeah.
which was also an American record. So, yeah.
Wow. So I imagine not only the consistency, but did the training regimen change once you started to get on the podium or even after Sarajevo?
Yeah, so probably oh my gosh, I have to think about it a little bit. probably 86, 87, I started really being more, with the coach on a regular basis.
Okay, yeah.
We're really kind of before that, like, because in 1980 I did so well at our Olympic trials, I actually was put on the national team. And that's kind of
Oh,
where I got this piece of paper, and I'm like, I don't even understand what this stuff means. It was like, can somebody like decipher this for me? And so anyway, then I gradually started being more around the team and leaving home a little bit more, and
yeah,
not always just being in Champaign,
yeah,
kind of going where I needed to, or, longer training camps, things like that.
yeah, yeah. How did you mentally approach the races where, like you said, a fraction of a second was the difference between gold and off the podium?
Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question for me.
Sure.
And I wish I had a really good answer. Like Dan Jansen, he was so good at visualizing a race
Yeah.
to the point where he could like close his eyes, have a stopwatch in his hand, click it when the gun goes off, and then cross the finish line and click it. And it would literally be like a time that he would
His
race.
time. Wow.
Yeah. But
Wow.
for me, if I tried to do that, I'd have, it would be like half the time of whatever the race was. I was not good at that. I think, and of course, Dan started at a super young age too.
Mhm.
Our families knew each other before we were born. So that's
Oh, wow.
how far
Okay.
Dan Jansen's and my
Yeah.
relationship go back. But, I think having started at such a young age, like just the evolution of it all and always racing, and I didn't have to think about it too much.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
kind of got in there with, like blinders on.
Hmm.
And even if you ask me, like, when I crossed the finish line, what was that? How was that race or whatever? It's almost like it was gone already. And, I could go back and kind of watch my race, and I can remember feeling different things at different times. But I wasn't real good at really analyzing or thinking every single stroke. For me, it was
Interesting.
more like just automatic pilot. The gun
Yeah.
goes off, and
And
I would go.
you go. Yeah.
And I'm sure that, that's probably very unique. As a matter of fact, I was on a committee that helped a lot of those athletes going into Salt Lake.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of did team building events with the current team that was getting ready to approach the Salt Lake Games.
Yeah.
And I was one of the retired Olympians kind of there helping navigate the whole thing.
Okay.
And one of the discussions were, well, how many times do you think you've been in the zone? And this was, kind of run by our sports psychologists that are at the Olympic Training Center. And, a lot of people didn't raise their hand at all. And then there were a couple that are like, yeah, maybe once or twice. And I'm like, oh, like, I kind of feel like I was in the zone like almost every time I raced.
Yeah.
Like, so, what is that? Like,
Yeah.
how do you do, like, I don't, and, they're also sprint races. So there's not a lot of time to think.
Right.
Where if I was in, a women's 3,000, which is 7.5 laps, you do have to think.
Yeah.
And I did skate up to the 1,500, so I would have, but that was the race that was I wasn't as strong in.
Okay. Yeah.
Although I did place fourth in that twice at the Olympic Games. But, yeah, I think it was more automatic pilot, just go, like, where I married an Olympian, Dave Cruikshank, and he could go back and tell you every single stroke.
Interesting.
And so, like, there's such this realm of how to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we have a daughter that's skating. like how she's probably a little bit more like Dave than like me on some of that stuff. So,
Hmm.
is that good? Is it bad? It is what it is. And then you just learn how to navigate it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea. Yeah. Because everybody's different, right? And
Right.
everybody approaches competition and big moments differently. So,
But
yeah.
I knew I had to like put my blinder, my sister Mary, the competitive one.
Yeah.
She also is the one that had the loudest voice. And
Okay.
so I kind of had, my family was dubbed the Blair Bunch. I had to kind of give them Blair Bunch rules. And the number
Yeah.
one rule was I didn't want to hear Mary's voice before the gun went off because I could see her as I'm kind of getting ready for my race, whether it's taking my warm-ups off or whatever, her just like, and I want to be like kind of focused in what I need to do, and I
Yeah.
don't need to hear her going, "Come on, Bonnie."
Yeah.
Like you can yell as much as you want, but like wait till the gun goes off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
I love
break
that.
my concentration.
Yeah. I love it. Take us back to, speaking of concentration, take us back to that Olympics in Calgary when you broke the world record in the 500. You won your first gold medal. What was that? What do you remember from that moment?
Yeah, well, and maybe I'll take you back, maybe to the back stretch before the race even began,
Sure.
because Krista Rothenberger, from East Germany, had just set the world record 2 pairs before me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So not only do I have to go faster than I've ever gone, I have to go a world record in order to win.
Yeah.
And so my coach comes up, skates alongside of me as I'm kind of getting ready to go to where the starting area is. And he's got a piece of paper and a pencil, and he's like, "Okay, like that practice time you did this week in practice, yeah, that's faster to beat that time, and I
Yeah.
could tell he was super nervous. And I just looked at him and I'm like, I know. And I skated away from him because he was so nervous
Yeah.
that, not that I was calm, because for sure you're not. You've got the butterflies,
Sure.
but it's how you channel that energy, right? And I felt like I was in a good place, and I'm like, I know what I did was good and I'm going to go to the starting line and I'm going to do the best I can, and I know I've got the potential to do it, but it is what it is, right? So anyway, the gun goes off, and typically Krista has a faster 100-meter split than I do.
Okay.
But I was ahead of her by 2/100ths.
Oh, wow.
So, and I can hear the announcer. So I even knew before I got to the backstretch of, a coach holds like a board with numbers on it so that you know what your split time was. And so I already knew by the time I got to the backstretch. And so I'm like, all I got to do is skate an even lap and I'm going to beat her.
Yeah.
And I wind up having the exact same lap, and I wind up beating her by the 2/100ths that I beat her down the 100.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh.
But the other thing that was weird too, when I go back and I watch that on TV, or the video of it, it's almost like when you're watching it on TV, it's almost like you see the clock hit before, for me, it actually registers.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like everybody knew I won before I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was like this weird delayed reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I knew at that point nobody else skating coming up could beat me. So I knew that was gold. That
Yeah.
was it. There
That-
wasn't another skater coming that could beat me. So yeah, I get goosebumps. Like,
Yeah.
how many years ago is that? And
Yeah.
it
Still.
still is pretty special. My family had kind of been in one area to watch the event, which was, that's not where their seats were, but there was a TV camera there, so there was like open space because they felt like they couldn't sell those seats because
Okay.
the viewing
Yeah.
wasn't good. But they were like, well, we could all be together here. Let's just all go, the rink's big enough. We can see enough of it that let's just all, so they all went in this one area that's not where their seats were. So then for the award ceremony, it was in a different area along the home stretch. And as I was about to get up onto the podium, they had all kind of got in different areas. And I saw my sister Angela, and she's crying. My sister Susie, just a big, huge grin on her face. I found my brother Rob, like, high-fiving his best friend. And my sister Mary, she's yelling, screaming, carrying on, going absolutely nuts. And then I found my mom, and she still looked scared to death, as if I was still racing.
Yeah.
So, that was a special moment for me, because to be able to see my family see all those different emotions, I can safely say that that's exactly what it felt like to win an Olympic gold medal. I still get emotional.
That's incredible.
And then, I was lucky enough to do it 5 different times at 3 different Olympic Games. There's nothing quite like it. There's nothing like hearing the national anthem. Like, I hear that song probably different than a lot of other people do. But it's something that I'm obviously very proud of, and that I know that I represented my family, my sport, and my country. That's you. That's your listeners. That's something that I'm proud that I was able. It's not like was in the Army or the Marines, and but it's a different thing of, I think, representing your country and having this proud moment and standing there and hearing the national anthem is something that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and I get choked up when I hear the national anthem too. So, and a lot of it actually comes from the fact that I've been an Olympic fan for such a long time. I remember when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, watching the Olympics and then learning how to play the Olympic theme on the piano.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I was young, and I'd just go hammer out the keys, and and then learning how to play the national anthem because of it too. So those are special moments, and to have you tell the story of your family's experience and the diverse emotions and celebrations they had is pretty amazing as well.
Yeah, and then like the 92 games, they were on the backside of the track, and for my first medal, and the award ceremonies are on the home stretch, and all I wanted to do was keep turning turning around to like wave to them, like, okay, I'm over here. And as it turned out, the only 2 faces that I saw that I knew was Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith. And they were like big stars at that point in time, and we're there watching the Olympics, and I'm like, I feel like I'm having this moment with, they're the only faces I recognize. This is not like, this wasn't really what I wanted. And then actually when I won my second medal there, they were able to bring my mom and my siblings at least over, so I had a visual of seeing them, which was super cool.
So did your whole family go to, or all your siblings, I guess, did they all go to Albertville and Lillehammer as well?
So yes, they like I said, they called my family the Blair Bunch.
Yeah.
Kind of starting in Calgary, there were 25 members there.
Wow.
The Albertville games, there was 45. Family, friends, cousins, whatever. And then in Lillehammer, there were 60 people.
Oh, wow.
You have to remember this too. Like, they stayed in all different places.
Yeah.
And they would all find a way to meet up. This is before cell phones.
Yeah.
This is before, you had to like really
You had to plan it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but no, they had a great time. like for instance, in Lillehammer, I skated 3 races, the 500,000 and 1,500. If you add those 3 races together of the amount of time that I raced, it's less than 6 minutes.
Whoa.
So to think that 60 people traveled all that way to watch me race for a total of less than 6 minutes, like that's crazy.
That's incredible.
That's pressure, but I'm glad I never thought about it at that. But at the end of the day, that's kind of how my family is. They're fun. They're gonna have a good time no matter where they are. No matter, yes, I gave them wins, but they would have had a good time whether I won, lost, or was sick and couldn't even compete.
Yeah.
Because that's just how they are.
Oh, that's amazing.
If I could have been in 2 places at once. I would have liked to have, seen and been with them more. But I was in the village and I was focused, and I'd see them after really my last race to go out with them, and then they all like leave the next day. Like it's expensive. So
yeah.
they're not sticking around any longer,
Right. Yep. So you finished your Olympic career with 5 gold medals and a bronze, and you kind of left the sport at the top, right? What was that like? What did you feel like? How did you process the end of your competitive career? And was it difficult to step away?
Yeah, for sure. As a matter of fact, I didn't stop just after that Olympics. I actually went one more season.
Okay.
Because on a non-Olympic year, although it's a little bit different now, but on a non-Olympic year, the biggest competition we had was the World Sprint Championships.
Okay.
And so that's 500 and 1,000 over 2 days. You do 500,000 one day, 500,000 the next day. And that competition was right here in my hometown of Milwaukee.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I'm like, I knew there's no way I could sit in the stands knowing that the biggest competition of the season was going to be in my home rink.
Yeah.
And then me to sit at, like, I'd put too much in this sport. Like, I knew I couldn't have done it. So I competed one more season. I won all 4 races in front of a home crowd that was like 300 members of the Blair Bunch.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that was more like, for me, I guess, a fitting way to go out.
Sure.
That wasn't my last competition of that season, but that was like the biggest one. And I kind of left on my own terms. There's a lot of people that have to leave due to an injury or financial. It could be a lot of different things, right? But I kind of left when I was ready to leave, and it was still super hard.
Yeah.
The very next season, although my husband, he wasn't at that time, but my boyfriend was still skating. And, they're getting ready to leave for Europe in early October. And that's where I'd spent the last 16 years.
Yeah.
And so now the smell of wet leaves is in Germany. Yeah. And I went out for a run, and that smell was like the smell I smelt in Germany. And I'm like out for this run, and I'm just like bawling. Yeah. Like, oh my God, like I'm not in Germany anymore. Like it was a little bit of kind of probably what withdrawal is. Sure. Because it is, so much of your life had been spent like that. I think probably the easier thing that helped me was that Dave was still kind of skating. So it kind of gradually got me out of it. I still went to the rink a ton and skated a ton, but just didn't compete so a lot of the bike rides, a lot of the workouts. So I still had a lot of that in my life, but it wasn't something that I had to do. I did it when I wanted to. And so I kind of gradually got out, but it was hard. And then at the next Olympics in Nagano, now I'm married. I'm 5 months pregnant. I'm doing an interview with Harry Smith on the edge of the rink before the Olympics start. And it like hits me like I'm here, but I'm not part of it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God. And I start crying again. And I'm 5 months pregnant. Was it hormones? Who knows? I got Harry Smith crying as he's interviewing me. It was so like there were a lot of different things. But, when something is so much a part of your life, it is hard to just walk away and let it be done. And so, I do feel like I've always kind of had a gradual part. I sat on the board of directors for U.S. Speed Skating. I still do some things with U.S. Speed Skating even now, and I've done some things with the Olympic Committee. So, I've tried to keep myself involved in one way or another. Now we have a group of skaters here skating with a team that we kind of, my husband's more the spearheader of it. I kind of fill in when he's not around, or I video. And then our daughter's skating. So,
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I'm still very much a part of the sport in a healthy way. I wish my body allowed me to do more, but
Sure.
it is what it is. I'm 61. I've got to go, okay, you can't do this all the time anymore, but it is still fun to go out and skate and then know that I can come home and eat dessert later after dinner.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I was going to ask, so it sounds like you do still put the skates on and go
It
sprint
still
around.
puts a smile on my face. Yeah. I mean, even though I can't go fast, but I still enjoy it. Yeah, sure.
I'm sure this is going to be a difficult question, but I'll ask it anyway. Is there a moment that stands out most when you reflect on your entire Olympic journey?
I think, sharing with you the 500 from Calgary, that snippet of what that all meant to me. And then I think my last Olympics in Lillehammer, my 1,000, I won that. I think it was a track record. I think it was the largest margin from first to second in the women's 1,000 meters ever.
Wow, yeah.
But that and being up on that podium, and now we're going to go back to the national anthem again. Because I knew at that Olympics I wasn't going to be going. I knew at that Olympics I was going to skate the next year, but I knew I wasn't going to go for another 4 more years. I knew I was going to be done. So standing on that podium, hearing the national anthem, it was almost a sad moment because I knew it was over. And yes, would I ever hear the national anthem being played as it's being played right then and there? It was like, I'm like, this is the end. And so, yes, it was still thrilling and exciting, but it also had this little sadness to it because I knew it was over. But what a great way to end, to be on top. Like that's the ultimate, right? That was the ultimate.
Yeah.
And I guess I too have to share, yes, I came away from that Lillehammer Olympics with 2 more gold medals, but another really special moment that at that Olympic Games, I was not in the venue. I was going to be racing the next day for the first time during the games, but Dan Jansen winning his 1,000 meters at that Olympics in world record time, the only gold medal he has, which he could have had almost as many as I did. That was one of the coolest moments at that Olympics. And, not to take away from what I did, I had super cool moments too, but taking my part out of it, I wish I could have been in 2 places at once and been in the stadium. But I had been in the stadium for his 500, which my boyfriend at the time, future husband, was there. And it was like every time the gun went off, my pulse was like I was exhausted by the time the race was over with.
Yeah.
And so I knew for the 1,000, knowing that I had to race the next day, I couldn't be in the stadium. It was
Yeah.
too much. It was too much for me.
Yeah.
So I wish I could have been in two places at once. Again, we didn't have cell phones,
Yeah.
but at the Olympic Village, I was watching on the monitor in our sports med room, and the sports med team had walkie-talkies. And so Dan was going to drug testing, and I could hear it through the walkie-talkie. So I grabbed one of the walkie-talkies, and that's how I was able to share a moment with him.
Yeah.
Pretty soon after he won his gold medal, because he wasn't going to be coming back to the Olympic Village. I wasn't going to be able to see him before my race. And I just felt like I needed this connection with him because we had been through so much together.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, like I said, our families knew each other before we were born. So to share that moment in that walkie-talkie was special for the both of us.
Yeah. I remember that Olympics when he won his gold medal, and thinking that was one of the coolest things, because I remember, maybe vaguely, but there was a lot of discussion about your friendship in the media, and there was a lot of coverage there. And I remember thinking, you'd won a few medals by then, and when he got his, it was like, yes, he's ascended to the top as well.
Yeah,
so
it was super cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. So you've stayed connected to the Olympic community in a lot of different ways, as you said. What's been the most meaningful thing for you in that next chapter?
Well, Dan and I got to carry the flame.
That's right. Yes.
And opening ceremonies, we got to skate with it together. That was super cool.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've had a lot of great moments and opportunities kind of come my way because of the success, right? There's so many different things that you can take away from that. One of the takeaways, which is pretty bizarre, is through a piece of fan mail after 94, where Johann Olaf Koss and myself were Sports Illustrated's People of the Year, Sportsman of the Year. In the article, it talks about my brother having a brain tumor. And I got a piece of fan mail from somebody who said, you should go see this doctor, because I was told, nothing can be done. And this doctor was able to do something for me, which was kind of what my brother had gone through.
Yeah.
And so we literally reached out to this doctor through this piece of fan mail, and that doctor was able to take out over half of my brother's brain tumor. And, probably gave him, I don't know how many more years of his life, which was, so that was a unique, special moment that happened because of it. And now I'm going to go another doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
Now I'm meeting up with my buddy, Brian Boitano, at his place in San Francisco, and I was going to be spending the night with him and staying a couple days. And as he showed me his place, he could tell his neighbor was having a party, and he was like waving and like, I just want to introduce you to my friend, Bonnie Blair. And the guy goes, Bonnie Blair? I operated on your brother, Rob Blair. Your picture is hanging in my office.
Wow.
And I'm like, like Mitchell Berger. And, Brian kept talking about this guy, his neighbor, Mitch this, Mitch that. But to me, he was always Dr. Mitchell Berger.
Yeah.
And so I get to see this doctor that performed brain surgery on my brother years later happens to live right next door to Brian Boitano. You can't, John, you can't make this stuff up, right?
You can't.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. That's
So
that's an
that's
amazing
like a
story.
weird
It is.
spin on something that's come out of it, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess the other thing is, my daughter's on our daughter,
Yeah.
David, my daughter, Blair. Her name is Blair Cruikshank. I did not
Okay.
name my kid Blair, although a lot of people think that. No,
Sure.
I have a different last name. Um, but now she's on this journey,
Yeah.
and you know, it's a double-edged sword, right? You have a dad who's made 4 Olympic teams, and you have a mom who's got 5 gold medals and a bronze. Like, that, but she's on her own journey,
Sure.
and she's hoping to stick with it long enough to be in Salt Lake in 34.
Oh,
Um,
wonderful.
so, she's on this journey. It's been super exciting to watch her progress and kind of relive it in a different way. But now I know why my mom was always so nervous in the stands. I
Yeah.
mean, you have no control, right?
Right.
It,
None.
it's now all on her, and
Yeah.
but it's fun to watch. We also have a son who plays semi-pro hockey, so he
Okay.
plays for the Hershey Bears out of Hershey, Pennsylvania, which is the affiliate team to the Washington Capitals. So
Oh, cool.
we've been living in an ice rink all our life.
Yeah. Yes, you
We're
have.
not getting out anytime soon.
Oh, that's amazing though. You've made it a family affair, and that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask just a couple more questions, maybe like just some like lightning round questions, if that's okay.
Okay, and
Um,
lightning, you think I can do this quick?
I don't know.
know.
Well, you take your time. You're
Probably
okay.
not.
We'll do rapid fire. All right.
Okay,
So,
I can try, but maybe speed my voice up, and then it'll be
yeah.
rapid.
Um, best training snack.
Oh, peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I love it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had it before every Olympic race.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any
I
any
did have to travel with my own jar of Skippy peanut butter because back in the day, especially in Europe, peanut butter was not the same, and you
right.
could not get like Skippy or Jif, but I prefer Jif or Skippy Super Chunk.
Ah, I love it. Any flavor of jam?
I probably strawberry I would
Okay.
prefer, but grape is okay too.
Okay, great. Favorite Olympic venue?
Uh, Calgary was as close to home, but Lillehammer was a super cool venue
That's great. Yeah. Have you ever
that
skated
I
in?
competed in,
Yeah, sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because Salt Lake's pretty cool. Yeah.
I've heard it's like the fastest ice on Earth.
Oh, yeah. Altitude, yeah. Not all the world records, but almost all the world records are in Salt Lake. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so
Super
it really
fast.
does.
You
Yeah.
kind of just, when you coast, you feel like you're going downhill. It's crazy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All the way around.
Yeah. So you're going downhill both ways,
Yeah,
right?
kind of.
Toughest race you ever skated?
Um, oh, geez. And I guess you could kind of take that different ways, right? So, okay, let's go with the 1500 in Calgary.
Okay.
And it wound up, I was at fourth in that race, but I didn't even have, like, the person I was supposed to be paired with didn't even show up. So then I had to do that race all by
All
myself.
by yourself.
So
Yeah.
then I kind of wonder what would have happened in that race if I actually would have had somebody that maybe pushed me a little bit.
Yeah.
And the 1500s were always my toughest race.
Yeah. Okay.
So, toughest being physically toughest. But yeah, like it's, I guess I kind of just always went into a lot of the races with just a good, positive, open mind that I never really thought about them as like, oh, this is going to be super hard. Where,
Yeah.
Yes, we would have maybe elements, but everybody else had the elements too.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, I probably didn't answer that question, but
No,
I
that's
can't
great.
answer
Yeah.
it really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, 1,500 would be a long ways for me too. So
Yeah.
just walking. So, do you remember your exact time you skated in your gold medal run in Lillehammer in the 500?
In Lillehammer in the 500, I think it was 39 or yeah, 39:29.
Wow.
Do you know or
I
no?
don't know. No.
Oh,
I'm not
it's
going to fact check
39
you. Yeah.
2 something.
Yeah.
39:29, 39:23. Maybe
Okay.
39:20. I'm not very good at that kind of
That's
stuff.
okay.
There's
Yeah.
there's others that like this one guy from Canada. He knew like everybody's time on the timesheet. I'm like, I don't even remember mine, and you know everybody else's. Like some people have this
This Rain
like
Man.
camera in
Yeah.
their eyes, and yeah,
Yeah.
either 39:23 or 29, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
sorry.
last question. No, not a problem at all. Indoor with perfect ice or outdoor with like thousands of fans?
Oh, I thought you were going to say outdoor with perfect weather.
Oh,
Outdoor with perfect weather, outdoor with perfect weather. But
okay.
otherwise, no matter what, indoor.
Indoor, yeah. Makes sense.
So like
Makes sense.
even one of the times when I set my last world record was in Calgary at the end of the season, and there were maybe 100 people in the stadium. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like parents, whatever. So it didn't have like the impact of a big competition or, whatever. But yeah, it like, I don't like it's fun, yes, to have the crowd, but we're so not used to having people watch us that we're kind of like used to not having people watch us.
Yeah. 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 Which I think is unfortunate because I actually really love speed skating. Watching it, I can't do
Well,
it.
and
But
short track's a lot of fun to watch too.
yeah, yeah, it is.
And I think being there, my problem now with short track is they go so much to the video that like
Yeah.
a race will be over and sometimes it'll take you 10 minutes before they say who was first, second, third, or fourth. That
Yeah.
part I don't like about it as much as, just going off the judges that make the call as the race is going on. And you're going to have, pluses and minuses, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, I think that you are a legend. You've always been someone I've looked up to. And so having this opportunity to speak with you and it means a lot. And so thank you for joining us today and just sharing your story. I love the you brought your family into it and generations of family into it. So
Yeah, thanks.
yeah. Where can people
So
follow you? Yeah.
I was gonna share with you too, like, because I've listened to some of your other podcasts,
Yeah.
and the one with the head of the USOPC, Sarah
Yeah.
Neufeld. She was talking a little bit sometimes about the challenge of the Winter Olympics.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I think and it doesn't go with all summer sports, but there's so many collegiate sports that are part of the summer games, right? So
Yeah.
you have collegiate stuff going on all over the United States that you can draw a lot of athletes off of.
Yeah.
But like in our winter sports, we don't have that. You
Right.
don't have that in the skiing or the bobsled. And one of the things that Sarah talked about too was, like you're just limited on facilities. So like, for instance, our like, yes, we have lots of hockey rinks for like what Apollo Ono did. But some of them have to be the right size.
Yeah.
Because some of them are a little bit not configured different because they're still all like rectangles, but they do like longer, wider, whatever. And like for our rink, the 400-meter rink, we have one here in the Milwaukee area, There's Lake Placid from that Olympics that's outside, so driven more by weather, right? So you're limited there. The Minnesota area, the St. Paul, Minneapolis areas, same thing. It's outside, driven by area. Butte, Montana, same thing. And then we have right there in Salt Lake, that's inside that we can use. So, we're limited on where we can even draw the athletes from. That's one of the things that my husband and I have been trying to do with getting our club up and running, and we call it Dash. And, we want to try to get more kids into the sport, right? Because it gave so much it fueled so much of our lives. And through sport, you learn so many great life lessons.
I agree.
So there's really so much to be said for sports and athletic literacy, right? That I feel like a lot of kids nowadays aren't getting. When we're trying to get some kids into our sport, and when we have them warm up, we're doing all different things, whether, even just them trying to jump rope, and they're like, they kind of are like, kids don't even know how to jump rope. Like, that to me is like crazy. So, I think just trying to get kids active, introducing them to the sport that we loved. And, we're not sure we're going to get an Olympian out of the deal. But we hope we at least teach great life lessons to them, and have them have that skating, like I said, put a smile on your face when you get out there, and you've got the wind in your hair and in your you're creating the wind, because now you're inside.
That's right.
But we want to try to make a difference, and it's hard. And I also know too, by my family and having so many different things, like my brother with a brain tumor, and my mom had dementia, so like the Alzheimer's family. My husband just lost his mom to that disease a couple of weeks ago. So I know there's a lot of great causes out there that people give to, but it's also like, here we've got this club that's a 501c3 that if we could get more money, we could hopefully touch more kids' lives and get them active, and get them off their phone, and just hopefully put a smile on their face. And so but like Sarah said, we're limited in our sport for winter, just because we don't have that collegiate avenue, or where summer things can happen in so many different areas.
No, and I think you're right, and we need to find ways for not only people to get more involved, but organizations to get more involved and step up to the plate and help these young kids with life lessons that they learn. I think they learn best through sport. Right. So,
and I think the other thing too, which I think Sarah said on your pod, was, we're the only country that isn't government funded for our athletes. So, us being involved in this sport that we've been involved for so long, it's because the love that we had for it. Now with some World Cups and some things, some of the athletes are able to make a little bit of money, but that's really just to put the food on the table and a roof over their head. They're not, it's not crazy amount of money. And then that's only for the top ones. So now we've really got to get to those grassroots ones, which is what we're hoping to do, so that we can get them up there to be, those next ones, to be able to be ready for Salt Lake in 2034.
Right. Agree. And it starts now. It starts
now.
Yeah. So great insight. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, you're not just a record-setting Olympian. You've become a guiding light for future generations in sport and in life. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, John. It was fun chatting with you today.
Yeah, you too. So for our listeners, tell us where they can follow you. Find out more information about what you're doing.
Yeah, so we're on like LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for Dash. They can see what all the kids are doing. I've got like an Instagram out there and stuff too. I'm not as good at that technical stuff as I probably should be, but a lot of the stuff I do kind of through Dash or whatever too. So yeah, it's crazy how all this technology has changed our world because
Yeah.
like I even think how would I have navigated all that when I was skating?
Yeah.
And to me it's still so overwhelming and and I think it is hard on some of these athletes because they really now they're kind of forced to put out there all their good, bad, and indifferent, where before we could kind of go be under the radar, right?
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I could just show up and do what I needed to do and not have to worry about, what people are thinking about me or saying about me or, there's a lot more now for the athlete of today to live up to. And I think that that's got to be really hard to navigate.
Yeah.
And so I'm just glad I didn't have to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. So, well, again, thank you so much. It's been just a real pleasure for me to chat with you. So,
All right, third time's a charm. We're done.
no, you're good. You're good. So,
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside the Rings. We encourage you to rate and share the podcast. And if there is any topic you would like us to cover, leave us a comment. See you next time.